In 2007, Quiznos operated over 5,000 locations across North America and was growing faster than Subway. By 2014, the company filed for bankruptcy with barely 2,000 stores remaining. Today, fewer than 200 Quiznos locations exist in the United States. This isn't a story about bad sandwiches or changing consumer tastes. The food was actually good, arguably better than most competitors. This isn't about poor marketing or bad luck, though those played roles. This is the story of how corporate greed systematically destroyed thousands of small business owners while enriching executives, and how a business model designed to extract maximum profit from franchisees eventually collapsed under the weight of its own predatory practices. What we're about to uncover is one of the most spectacular self-destructions in restaurant history, and a cautionary tale about what happens when a company forgets that franchisees are partners, not profit centers to be exploited. The story begins in 1981 in Denver, Colorado, where an innovation was about to change the sandwich industry forever. Jimmy Lambatos wasn't trying to build a franchise empire when he opened the first Quiznos in Denver. He was a chef who believed that toasting sandwiches in a convection oven created a superior product to cold subs. The high-heat toasting melted cheese perfectly, crisped the bread, and brought out flavors that cold sandwiches couldn't match. The concept was simple but genuinely innovative. While Subway dominated the sandwich market with cold subs made assembly line style, Quiznos offered a premium alternative. The toasted sandwiches cost slightly more, but customers who tried them often became converts. The bread arrived fresh daily, the meats were high-quality deli cuts, and the proprietary sauces added complexity that basic cold subs lacked. Through the 1980s, Lambatos slowly expanded Quiznos across Colorado. The restaurants developed a loyal following among customers willing to pay premium prices for noticeably better sandwiches. By 1991, Quiznos had about a dozen locations and a reputation for quality that attracted the attention of two businessmen looking for their next opportunity. Rick and Richard Shodden purchased Quiznos in 1991 and immediately saw potential for massive expansion. They weren't restaurant operators. They were business strategists who understood franchising's profit potential. The Shoddens looked at Quiznos and saw not just good sandwiches, but a franchise system that could be optimized for maximum corporate profit. The Shodden brothers recognized that the real money in franchising wasn't selling sandwiches to customers. It was selling franchise opportunities to aspiring business owners, then controlling every aspect of their operations to extract ongoing revenue, regardless of whether individual franchise locations actually succeeded or failed financially. The expansion strategy was aggressive and sophisticated. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, Quiznos recruited franchisees with compelling presentations about the booming sandwich market, premium positioning, and high-margin potential. The pitch was seductive. Own a piece of a rapidly growing brand in an industry with proven demand. Franchise candidates saw impressive sales projections, glossy marketing materials, and testimonials from successful early franchisees. What they didn't see, or didn't understand until it was too late, was how the franchise agreements were structured to benefit corporate headquarters at franchisees' expense. By 2007, Quiznos had exploded to over 5,000 locations, making it one of the fastest-growing restaurant chains in America. The brand was everywhere: strip malls, downtown locations, airports, and food courts. Quiznos appeared to be on track to challenge Subway's dominance of the sandwich segment. But beneath the expansion success, a catastrophe was building. Franchisees were discovering that the economics of operating a Quiznos were fundamentally broken. The franchise model that built Quiznos' rapid expansion contained a fatal flaw. It was designed to extract maximum profit from franchisees rather than create sustainable business partnerships. The structure was so aggressive that it would eventually trigger franchisee rebellion, lawsuits, and the company's eventual collapse. The first problem was the cost of entry. Quiznos franchise fees were higher than competitors, and the required build-out costs for stores were excessive. Franchisees had to purchase specific equipment, use designated contractors, and meet design standards that drove up initial investment to $250,000 or more, significantly higher than comparable sandwich franchises. But the real trap was in the ongoing operational costs. Quiznos required franchisees to purchase all food, paper products, and supplies through American Food Distributors, a company that Quiznos executives partially owned. This arrangement meant Quiznos profited twice: once from franchise fees and royalties, and again from marking up essential supplies that franchisees had no choice but to purchase. The forced supplier relationship created a devastating financial trap where franchisees paid prices for food and supplies that were often 30 to 40% higher than market rates, ensuring that corporate headquarters profited handsomely even when franchise locations struggled to break even or operated at losses that destroyed small business owners' life savings. Franchisees calculated that their food costs were 10 to 15% higher than they would be buying from competitive suppliers. On a $500,000 annual revenue location, this meant $50,000 to $75,000 in extra costs going directly to enrich corporate headquarters. For many franchisees, this markup was the difference between profitability and failure. The franchise agreements also included strict territorial restrictions and requirements that franchisees pay for regional advertising whether or not they wanted it. Quiznos could, and did, open new locations near existing franchises, cannibalizing sales while collecting fees from all locations. Most predatory was how Quiznos' business model made corporate headquarters profitable, regardless of franchisee success. The company earned revenue from initial franchise fees, ongoing royalties, advertising fees, and supplier markups. A franchisee could be losing money every month, while Quiznos executives collected multiple revenue streams from that failing business. By 2006, franchisees began organizing and speaking out. Online forums filled with complaints about unsustainable costs, predatory practices, and corporate indifference to franchisee struggles. What started as isolated complaints became a movement as franchisees realized they'd all been sold the same broken business model. In 2006, a group of franchisees filed a class action lawsuit alleging fraud, misrepresentation, and breach of contract. The lawsuit claimed Quiznos had deliberately misrepresented profit potential, forced franchisees into supplier relationships that benefited corporate executives, and systematically prioritized corporate profits over franchisee viability. The lawsuits revealed what franchisees had discovered too late: that Quiznos' aggressive expansion was built on a foundation of extracting wealth from small business owners rather than creating sustainable partnerships, with franchise agreements carefully structured to shield corporate headquarters from the financial devastation they were inflicting on thousands of families who had invested their savings. Additional lawsuits followed, including complaints filed with the Small Business Administration alleging that Quiznos was essentially a pyramid scheme disguised as a franchise opportunity. The SBA began investigating whether Quiznos' practices violated franchise disclosure laws. Franchisee testimony painted a devastating picture. Business owners who had invested life savings described being trapped in agreements they couldn't escape, watching their businesses fail while corporate headquarters continued collecting fees. Some franchisees filed bankruptcy. Others simply walked away, losing their entire investment. While franchisees struggled and failed, Quiznos Corporate remained profitable. The company's revenue came from franchise fees and supplier markups, not from selling sandwiches. This perverse incentive structure meant corporate headquarters could profit even as the franchise system collapsed around them. Then came 2008. And the economic recession that would expose how fragile Quiznos' foundation really was. The Great Recession hit premium-priced restaurants particularly hard, consumers cutting back on spending abandoned expensive sandwiches for cheaper alternatives. Quiznos' positioning as a premium product, once a strength, became a liability when customers prioritized value over quality. Simultaneously, Subway launched the $5 footlong promotion that changed the competitive landscape overnight. For $5, customers could get a filling sandwich that, while not toasted or premium, was filling and affordable. Quiznos sandwiches cost $7 to $8, and suddenly that price difference mattered enormously to recession-hit consumers. Subway's $5 footlong promotion didn't just offer competitive pricing, it fundamentally repositioned sandwiches as affordable everyday meals, while simultaneously making Quiznos appear overpriced and out of touch, creating a perception gap that no amount of advertising or quality arguments could overcome during the deepest economic crisis in generations when every dollar mattered to struggling American families. Quiznos tried to compete on price but couldn't match Subway's discounting because franchisees' high operating costs, driven by forced supplier relationships, made deep discounting unprofitable. The company was trapped by its own predatory business model. Adding to Quiznos' problems was a bizarre advertising campaign featuring spong monkeys, grotesque rat-like creatures singing about sandwiches in high-pitched voices. The ads went viral, but for the wrong reasons. Many customers found them disturbing rather than appealing, and the campaign did little to address Quiznos' fundamental problems of price and perception. By 2009, Quiznos locations were closing at an alarming rate. Franchisees who couldn't make their businesses profitable simply walked away, leaving empty storefronts with for lease signs where thriving sandwich shops had operated months earlier. The closures created a death spiral. As locations closed, remaining franchisees lost the benefits of shared advertising and brand presence. Customers who visited closed Quiznos locations assumed the entire chain was failing and stopped visiting remaining stores. The collapse fed on itself, accelerating with each closure. In 2014, Quiznos filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection with $500 million in debt. The filing revealed the full extent of the disaster. From a peak of over 5,000 locations, the chain had collapsed to barely 2,000 stores, with hundreds more closing during the bankruptcy process. The bankruptcy filing exposed the ultimate irony that while thousands of franchisees had lost their life savings and small business dreams pursuing what they believed was a legitimate opportunity, the corporate executives who had designed and profited from the predatory system had already extracted their wealth, leaving behind only debt, broken promises, and empty storefronts. The bankruptcy allowed Quiznos to restructure debt and emerge with new ownership, but the brand's reputation was irreparably damaged. The combination of franchisee lawsuits, spectacular closures, and negative publicity had destroyed whatever goodwill Quiznos had built during its expansion years. Today, Quiznos limps along with fewer than 200 U.S. locations, a 96% decline from its peak. The remaining stores are mostly operated by franchisees who either bought in late enough to negotiate better terms or managed to survive the carnage through exceptional location or management. The Quiznos story stands as a cautionary tale about franchise predation and short-term thinking. The company built an empire by selling franchise opportunities rather than building sustainable businesses. They optimized for corporate profit extraction rather than franchisee success, and ultimately paid the price when the system collapsed. For thousands of small business owners who invested their savings in Quiznos franchises, the legacy is financial devastation. Many lost everything: their investments, their dreams of business ownership, and years of their lives working to make unworkable businesses succeed. The broader lesson is about the dark side of franchising. When done ethically, franchising creates win-win partnerships where corporate provides systems and support while franchisees execute locally. When done predatorily, franchising becomes wealth extraction, where corporate profits by selling opportunities that are designed to fail. Quiznos proved you can't build a sustainable business on the backs of failing franchisees forever. Eventually, the lawsuits pile up, the closures accelerate, and the brand reputation collapses. The toasted sandwiches might have been good, but the business model was rotten from the start. The empty storefronts that once housed Quiznos locations serve as monuments to corporate greed and the dangers of optimizing for short-term extraction over long-term partnership. They remind us that some business models are designed to fail, not in spite of their structure, but because of it.